Hey, this is Warren Sprouse. It's 8 o'clock on a Sunday night here in Charleston, South Carolina, and this is the Bible Forum. It's May 22nd, 2016, and we're going to spend the next 2 hours together. Some of you probably won't make it, and that's okay because we record everything. We post it on our website right here at thebibleforum.net. It runs in the little screen that you're looking at right now if you're doing this live. All week long. I shut it off sometime around Sunday afternoon to kind of get ready for the next week. All of these as well are available on our YouTube page. You can go back for a couple of years and watch those sorts of things. We want you to be a part of the show. We have a call-in number. It's area code 843-732-0249. You can get in on the chat room. You can ask a question there, make a comment. I get to see that every once in a while. I can't monitor it on a regular basis. There are other folks who will answer your questions as they show up in the chat room, if that's not satisfactory. When we get to a break, and there's usually a spot where I have to stop and save something and then start the recording again, and I'll get involved there. Tomorrow is what is tomorrow? 23rd. Why do I want to say it's the 25th? I don't know why I want to say that. Anyway, classes start tomorrow for the Bible Institute. Some of you are in a rotation. You're working your way through. And so those classes, those videos will be sent out tomorrow morning. They'll come right to your inbox, your email inbox. You'll see them. If you have not finished your test or your essay, I'm assuming that you're not going to do that, and that's quite all right. I want you to be a part of this. If you have not already, go to the website, BibleInstituteofCharleston.org. It'll tell you everything you need to know. It has videos you can watch to get some idea what's going on. An email address you can use to sign up. That email address is learnbibledoctrine@gmail.com. You can also look at some of the other websites. I wrote this week for the counseling website, trybiblicalcounseling.net. I should have written something for the, I hesitate to call it the tribulation website, End of Days. It's called the view from Zoar.com. That's the view that Lot had as Sodom and Gomorrah were being destroyed. There's a number of things that are there interesting. We're going to be talking about some of those things. But there's also livinggodly.net, and it seems to me there's something else. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, you can get all that off the website. You need to check on those regularly. You need to sign up on the Facebook, and you need to sign up on the Twitter so you can keep up with the things that are going on. And you need to send this information out to other people. We send out an email every Saturday so that you can see the subject matter, the things that we're going to be talking about. This is the one from this week. The pictures that were supposed to be underneath, the printer moves them to the other page, and it's different. But there's some things. We're going to be talking about psychology, Christian counseling, therapy, that sort of thing. And I found a picture, a little poster I put on there. After a year in therapy, my psychiatrist said that maybe life isn't for everyone. Now, that's not funny if you're struggling and suffering, but it is an illustration of what this whole secular psychological program is about. They have no clue what they're doing. We're going to look at the Armageddon Code, another book. I know we're tired of them, but this is another book that's come out. It's just like the other books. It's got all kinds of spectacular things, speculations of one sort or another about end times and that sort of thing. We'll talk about some of that. For those of you who do not get the email, you can go, when you go to the website, thebibleforum.net, those same topics are listed there for you. under the heading of May 22nd. We're going to look at the global financial system as it's about to change. We're going to look at the world as it increasingly rejects religion, and along with that, objective morality, becoming ever more secular. And how many people do you know that think being secular is really the best way to go? We're going to look at, as I mentioned, the psychotherapists, doctors. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference between Christian counseling and the secular version. And I wrote an article a while back about how when a nation rejects objectivity, it dies. When it rejects objective morality, I should have said, it dies. And we're going to go back and look at that, flesh that out a little bit more. I want to say the American Medical Association, but I'm not sure. It could have something to do with children. There's another one out there. In addition to a noted professor, has come out with this a statement on this transgender issue, and it's becoming a very big deal in our culture. But he says that transgenderism is superstitious belief. It's not science at all. And then there's something a little vague I threw at you called the 10th man theorem. I don't know if you understand the 10th man theorem or not, but it's necessary for human survival. It's necessary for international survival, and we'll take a look at that if it doesn't get too late. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot going on, and you know me, I may get to the place where I get busy with something and forget all about that, because it's at the end of the trail. But we'll do the best we can. In the world today, as you were watching it unfold throughout this week, we saw another Egyptian airplane that went down. There's no question in most people's minds that this very well could be sabotage. There's nobody out there trying to do that except for ISIS, for the radical Muslims who are trying to make a point. 60-some people dead to make a point. That's sick. Great Britain is set to vote next month on membership in the European Union. If they vote to get out of the European Union, I think that's considered a no vote. We know we don't want to be in it. I don't know. The experts claim that this will basically kill the European Union. They won't be able to survive. Germany has been financing them. Great Britain is a stabling influence. If you take those two out, what have you got left? France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Scandinavian countries, Greece, Spain. These countries are almost bankrupt. Great Britain is trying to staunch the flow of illegal immigrants into their country, and they can't do that and still be a member of the EU. It's required that you have to have open borders, apparently. They're being told what they can and cannot do by other people, and they're not used to that. They also do not have control over their own economy, and that's a big issue. Big banks and credit card companies are deeply concerned about the smaller versions over in Europe and Asia. Those banks are getting hacked. Once that happens, then the entire system is open to some form of mischief. Can you say tighter security? More than just that little chip in your credit card? We'll talk about that a little bit later. The TSA's having their problems, long lines. They seem to have gotten a handle on it, but it's not going to go away. And there's at least some flavor, some rumor, there's some statements being floated around that tell us this was deliberate. That these people honestly thought that more people would sign up to get one of those passes that let you bypass all of that, and as a result they let go some 40,000 employees. And that's just bad management. Trying to save money, I suppose. But you know what happens in a service industry that tries to save money? It goes away. And the TSA problems are not going to go away. Did you see the blue moon? We got a blue moon this weekend. Won't be another one for another 2 years or year and a half anyway. We call them blue moons. It's just an extra moon. We get a moon every month, and this is an extra one. It's rare. It occurs it occurs just rare enough to be called a blue moon. Once in a blue moon. A third of all cash, 30%, in this country is held by 5 U.S. corporations. 30% of all the cash in this country is held by 5 companies. Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet. Don't know what that is, except that's Google. Cisco Systems, and Oracle. Amazing, isn't it? The Islamic State appeared to try to keep morale high among its supporters in a new audio message released on Saturday, which also called for attacks on the United States during the holy month of Ramadan. Ramadan begins in this country on June 6. It runs for a month, 30 days. It will finish on July 5. Renewed attacks on the homeland. Pay attention. An Iranian commander said we can destroy Israel in under 8 minutes if the supreme leader gives the order. Think about that. Not sure they can, they believe they can. The Revolutionary Guards will raise the Zionist regime quickly, says a senior advisor of the elite Al-Quds unit. Under the heading of tribulation news, thinking about economics and the hackers are breaking into smaller world banks. This gives them access to the worldwide communication network called SWIFT. That's a program that settles transactions. The smaller banks are less protected and therefore easier targets, but once they are infiltrated, then they use that information to attack the larger banks. In February, computer hackers stole over $100 million from Bangladesh's central bank. Hackers performed that attack a second time recently on what is believed to be a commercial bank in Vietnam. On Monday morning, a week ago, those attacks were discussed in stark terms by bankers present at a special meeting of President Obama's Commission on Enhancing National Cybersecurity. They expressed frustration about the futility of fighting hackers. Large American companies spend millions of dollars defending their computer networks from data breaches and potentially destructive digital bombs. But the hackers just go around all of that and head for the smaller, easier targets, the ones left less defended. That's how bank robbers successfully made 5 transfers out of Bangladesh's bank account at the Federal Reserve Bank in New York back in February. They broke into a less defended bank, then posed as that legitimate institution to pull money out of the larger bank. The weakest link in the chain is where exposure happens, A.J. Banga said in this meeting. And A.J. Banga is the CEO of MasterCard. He sits on the commission that was appointed by President Obama and is deeply concerned. Banga directed his comments at 3 visiting panelists, high-ranking cybersecurity officials. And I mentioned them to you already: American Express, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase were among them. Banking is typically regarded as the industry best prepared to fight off hackers. It has the most to lose. But the fellow who's the head of the global cyber partnership at JP Morgan said, quote, "At the end of the day, every institution is not equal. How do you interact when you have serious problems? Like the bank in Bangladesh. It seems to me," he said, "what you need is the real-time information sharing." Last year, President Obama signed into law measures that promise to do just that. But privacy advocates worry the law will just increase unchecked surveillance on innocent Americans. And the result of this commission's inquiries will be proposed to the next U.S. president. Who will it be, and what will that president do? U.S. government spies on internet traffic worldwide and routinely spots the hacks first. But much of that information is classified. We've heard about all this with the NSA. It's sensitive to national security, so it's kept secret for long periods of time. Bankers at Tuesday's meeting discussed an urgent need to increase and even automate the communication between U.S. intelligence agencies and American corporations. They said we should attempt to desensitize and declassify as much as possible. Can you say real-time global information? We're moving in that direction. Spain's debt is now 99% of its national economy. Madrid is reporting that they have emerged from double-dip recession in late 2013, ending a 5-year period that saw some 3.5 million jobs lost. It's now one of European Union's strongest growing economies. The Bank of Spain shows that the country's debt is now worth more than the value of the economy. At the same time, they're saying it's the strongest of the European Union's economies. The bank said Wednesday that Spain's public debt stockpile stood at 1.09 trillion euros. That's $1.23 trillion just in the first quarter of the year, and represents 101% of the country's total GDP. You wonder why Great Britain wants out. We're watching Venezuela. Have you seen it on the news? It is heartbreaking. Venezuela has officially run out of money. They are now talking about printing new money. Venezuela has dissolved into a third world country. It has oil deposits that are greater than that of Saudi Arabia, although I believe that it's not as clean. But what is Venezuela's problem? Is it the market? No. They're socialists, communists, dictatorships. The socialist dictatorships over the last several decades have completely ruined their economy. That's what socialism does. Bernie, are you listening? And our young people want that here because they feel the burn. Venezuela has no money, no food, no essential services, no medical supplies. Tens of thousands of people in the streets every day just looking for food. A police and a military unable to control them. Parents complain that our children are dying from lack of food and medicine, that they do not have enough water or electricity. Roberto Fuentes Bernal, 42 years of age, was reportedly caught trying to mug a passerby in the Venezuelan capital. He was trying to beat and rob people. Before police arrived at the scene, the crowd took the law into their own hands, and he was surrounded by a mob, beaten and set on fire before the police could get there. Venezuela saw a new wave of looting that resulted in at least 2 deaths, countless wounded, and millions of dollars in losses and damages. According to the Panama Post, on Wednesday morning, a crowd hacked the Maracay wholesale market in the central region of Venezuela. According to testimonies of the merchants, the endless food lines that Venezuelans have been enduring just to get groceries could not be organized fast enough that day. The United States is defending their missile shield in Romania. They have put one up. Russia says, you're doing that against us and we don't like it. And the United States, no, it's not like that. Robert Work, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, addressing Russia's concern over the United States missile shield, said the shield is not targeting Russia. Russia's not buying that. And neither is anybody else. As soon as it was fully operational, people in the United States government started saying that's what it's about. And they're talking about putting up more. Russia is cranking up. The world is going back to Cold War if we're lucky. On the global religious scene, we've got Israel. A study reveals Muslims are more devout than Christians or Jews. That probably is one of those subjects, one of those headings, one of those reports that comes under the heading of duh. What we talk about when we talk about devout religious types, we're talking about people who routinely follow the prayers, the patterns, the behaviors that are identified with their religion. And Muslims must do this, or somebody will string them up or burn them alive. Jews don't have to. Christians are not even supposed to. Only 30% of Jews and 57% of Christians are devout, while upwards of 100%, it's a high 90s among Muslims, are devout. The Internal Review has concluded the BBC is too Christian. You know anything about the BBC? The BBC is the British Broadcasting Corporation, or company. It is far from being Christian. Britain is far from being Christian. But the report says, it's internal review, the BBC's too Christian. This, I believe, is more propaganda oriented toward more Muslim programming. The religious output in the BBC, according to an internal review, has too many Christian type programs as opposed to other kinds of religious programming. The BBC's head of religion and ethics has suggested Muslim, Hindu, and Sikh faiths should get more airtime. One Muslim leader suggested the review could lead to Friday prayers from a mosque being broadcast in the same way that Christian church services currently are featured in BBC's schedules. What's more amazing? The report is now being considered by the general director, who could make the changes. Mr. Ahmed said in a statement, Christianity remains the cornerstone of our output, and there are more hours dedicated to it than there are to other faiths. Christianity, the religious type, not the biblical type. The number of Muslims in Britain has doubled in the last decade. They now have 3 million. Doubled from 1.5 to 3 in 10 years, and it's continuing to grow. The percentage of Brits who are secular is far greater than it's ever been. I wonder why they have any religious broadcasting. But the reason this is being discussed in the first place is because the BBC is owned by the government. It's not just government regulated, it's owned by the government. Such a situation struggles not to appear to be propagandizing. Here in America, it's different. We only have liberals, atheists, anti-Christians, and Satanists controlling what gets put out. And what stops it? Revenue, dictated by viewership. And so the effort over here has been to corrupt the population. If you corrupt the population, the garbage increases. Have you seen this year's current lineup of shows? We have a lot more to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about a study that's come out relative to the Antichrist, to the rapture, to Jesus' second coming. We'll do that right after this.